Thank you. Well, what was the idea of speaking to my colleagues and all the audience here at Republica was that most of the applications of the internet, people use the internet, are based on the machinery. So we really use the term. What is the internet? At the end of the day, it is based on a lot of cables and data centers and other things. No one really using the internet knowing about these things. So on behalf of a small number of people dealing with the machinery, I work for T-Labs, and it's actually a great opportunity to work there, like this. That if you really want to change things in the internet, it's not just the applications, it's the infrastructure. So how do we design networks? How do we operate the data centers that today mean the internet actually? How do we combine networks and computers, like data center computers? How do we deal with bandwidth and all these things? So basically, if you look at the whole thing in an historical way, the technologies we use in the internet, the protocols and other things, they're not designed for the applications we do actually with the internet today. They were designed for very, very different reasons. And so we use TCP, IP, etc. today to stream HD videos or even upload big files. And everything we do today, communicate, sharing, using high-end media, actually the machinery was not built for that. It was not designed for this. And actually, it's actually somehow crazy that we can do all these things with something that was not designed for doing this. And so where we work, the small number of people in the machinery room in the basement, actually, no one really has spent that much time in there, apart from some people. We have the problem today, like designing the future technologies, that we can only look at the requirements of the applications today. So let's say 20 years ago, when the protocols were designed and used first time in networks, no one actually at that time assumed that today millions and millions of people would actually upload HD videos from smartphones. That if people like the engineers 20 years ago would have known this, they would have designed it, really, believe me, very different from what we have today. So the same problem we face today is today we think it's crazy. Everyone is having a smartphone, a mobile broadband connection, and is accessing services in data centers. 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, it's not that long time ago, there were no private, like consumer-based services that were hosted in data centers. There, like no one in a private context were using something that came from a data center. We had PCs at home and stuff like that, but nothing came from data centers. Today, we have many, many data centers, and all these services we use every day, we don't even think about that. These are huge buildings consuming energy, being connected to the internet, whatever it is. And so if we now think about the design of the networks and the data centers, the combination of computers and networks, what we would need in 10 years from now, we actually look at what we do today. And we might have some imaginations about it's maybe not an HD movie, it's a 3D movie. So the only thing we can do today, like assumptions about the technical requirements from now on in 10 years, is having some imaginations about bigger files, upstream, downstream, etc., etc. But it's much more complex than this. Of course, there are these very important studies about the bandwidth and everything, capacity, storage-wise, etc. But definitely we are actually in a very difficult situation with our assumptions about what it will be in 10 years' time. But what we design today and build tomorrow is going to be the infrastructure because it stays. What we use today in the mobile and the fixed network, like the internet we know of today, has been designed 20 years ago, built 10 years ago, and is being operated and maintained today. And the cycles, the development cycles in infrastructure, they're not like software development. It's not that building an app, putting it in an app store, and then having a cool service. It takes years and years and years, and decisions engineers do make today about protocols, security, etc., will heavily influence the capabilities of what we use in 10 years. So where we work actually at the labs is the R&D department of Deutsche Telekom. We're actually one chunk of the people I belong to as well are dealing with this, and the challenges I just described. So now, one question is, how do we do this? Like, is it the same people, engineers from 20 years ago? Do they know about this? Do they have the imagination, the curiosity, the openness in their mind? So is it people business, or is it just engineering? Which actually, engineering is always people's business. So, but it's a challenge. And one of the things we actually do is that we try to embrace young people, engineers, and one of the reasons I'm here today is the contest, the innovation contest. And we can do it ourselves. We're not going to be enough people anyway. So this is just one carrier as one puzzle piece of what the internet is. So many carriers, but there are not going to be enough good engineers in these companies. So we have to embrace other people with the capabilities to actually have the imagination, designing, building, and operating. Or actually, operating is okay with us, but designing and building is a challenge. So how to do this? We can actually, at T-Labs, spin off companies as well. So the big mothership maybe is not the best way to come up with these disruptions. The second way is so doing it ourselves in small entities. And the second, of course, is working with young, fresh, infrastructure, engineering, focused companies. And that is the second taste I want to point out. So in Berlin, actually, we already do this. So we really work with people who do SDN, who do like software-defined networks. It's just a buzzword, but basically there's a lot of real things in the background. We do work with people who actually build the data center of the future that is net-centric. So is it going to be the one big thing, like the one big data center, the Google or the Amazon or the whomever? Or is it a lot of small data centers that are distributed, much more efficient, less consuming, closer to the user, etc.? So these questions we actually focus at the moment, and to do so we work with young companies. So this is first of all just a report, and the second is what I would like to ask people is call us, send us an email if you think you do have interesting expertise or artifacts, whatever it is, that actually you think would be right placed into the machinery, the basement of the internet. Then actually contact us, because we're very open to work with you, and very interested to actually have a win-win situation in that situation. Well, that's it from the machinery. Any questions?